Hello, good day. How are you doing? Welcome to Global Impact. Tonight, David McQuell, your host again. We are back again looking at the march towards a prosperous society and the role that we as Christians can play to make our society a prosperous society. I tell you, this is a great show you shouldn't miss. And I will be right back after this break. I'll be right back. Thank you. Welcome to the show. God bless you. Really glad and excited to have you here tonight. We're going to have a good time tonight. I tell you, I always enjoy myself, and so should you. Really a great time. Thank you so very much. It's great to have you.
David McQuell on
Global
Impact at TC. Oh my word! On Global Impact at TCN with David McQuell on Global Impact TEC ECNTV.com.
Yeah.
And with David McQuell on Global Impact at TECNTV.com.
TECNTV.com.
Hello everyone, this is Global Impact with David McQuell, your host. Isaiah chapter 2 verses 1 to 5 says that a time is coming when the church will rise in authority and influence and dominate the earth. And many nations will come and say, teach us the ways of the Lord. Global Impact is a show that inspires you as a Christian to rise up through the values of the kingdom of God and shine as light wherever you may be. We believe that missions is no longer limited to some isolated, unreached community in some dark continent. The church should reach out to all aspects of life, including politics, business, science and research, the media and diplomacy, and every aspect of human life. Join us on Global Impact, Monday through Friday, at 2 p.m. Eastern Time and 6 p.m. GMT. Global Impact is broadcast on TECNTV.com. Join us.
Okay, welcome back. So thank you so very much for taking the time out to be with us here. We really appreciate it. We cherish it on Global Impact. It's really a great opportunity for us to bring in great content. The subject, at the heart of conservative beliefs. Which is that God has blessed us as human beings, has given us this great blessing, and that we should explore our lives, explore our world, to have the impact that we should have, to bring in the change that we can bring, and to create a prosperous society where people, lives can be blessed, our society can be blessed, and so on and so forth. So really we enjoy you to join us this evening as we continue from where yesterday we watched some very great videos from PragerU. Great videos, teachings on, I think one of them was the myths, lies, and capitalism. All the lies that has been, wrapped around capitalism, arguments that capitalism is actually the problem of society, which when in actual fact, there's no system, economic system that has transformed society like capitalism. All the things that we see today, the clothes we wear, the equipments that we use in this studio, the gadgets that you have in your hand, could be the Apple phone or Android phone or your computer or even on your TV screen. All these are products of capitalism. If capitalism is wrong, then these things should not be possible. We shouldn't have them. We shouldn't be coming on air. We shouldn't have the internet, because all these things are products of capitalism. This is where you know that capitalism has changed society. And so we looked at that yesterday very much at length, and today we're not going to waste time. We will start with a short video, which is just about 10 minutes. There is only one way out of poverty. If we really want to change our society, to make society productive and to make life better for people, and we believe that it is our duty to do it as Christians and even as human beings, to be productive and bring in change in our society. One way to bring great change that will resonate with people is the change from poverty to wealth. When a society is poor, people struggle, people suffer. Well, when a society prospers, everybody enjoys a good life. You're able to have what you want to have. So we want to look at that video, please. I would like you to take your pen and your notebook and really take some notes down. This is great learning. These are great teachings that we can apply in our lives and apply them in our day-to-day activities and bring immediate change to our lives. So right away, we're going back. I'll be right back after this video.
What's the best way to help poor people escape poverty? Progressives and conservatives have very different answers to this question. But before we explore those answers, let's agree on this. Both progressives and conservatives believe that the government has a moral obligation to help those who, through bad luck or unfortunate circumstances, can't help themselves. Here's what a conservative icon, Nobel Prize-winning economist Friedrich Hayek said on the subject. There is no reason why, in a society that has reached the general level of wealth ours has attained, the first kind of security should not be guaranteed to all. Some minimum of food, shelter, and clothing, sufficient to preserve health and the capacity to work. Whatever the media might tell you, there isn't a conservative out there who would not agree with Hayek's statement. As I've documented in my book, Who Really Cares?, when it comes to philanthropy and charitable giving, conservatives actually outgive progressives by a lot. Where the two sides disagree is on the role the government plays, not in protecting the poor from poverty, but in lifting them out of it. Here's a disturbing piece of data. On balance, since President Lyndon Johnson's War on Poverty programs came fully online in 1966, the poverty rate in America has hardly budged. That rate, as computed by the United States government, was 14.7% in 1966. And today, it's 13.5%. The rate has fluctuated a few points up and down over the decades. The net result is just 1 percentage point of progress. And this is after the government has spent over $20 trillion on poverty relief programs. $20 trillion, the current size of the U.S. debt, and the needle has barely moved. Now, it's true that the official poverty rate doesn't measure consumption. Certainly, poor people today have many more things than poor people did in 1970. Across all income levels, including the poor, Americans are likely to have cell phones, air conditioners, flat-screen TVs, computers, and a car. And life expectancy has lengthened considerably thanks to overall improvements in healthcare. But it demeans poor people to say that this material progress makes poverty less of a problem. Our goal should never be to merely make poverty less miserable for people. Our goal must be to make poverty more escapable. Many progressives offer a straightforward solution: more funding for poverty programs. They believe that we need to transfer more wealth through government taxation from people who have money to people who don't. This is the income inequality argument. Conservatives have a different answer: more opportunity. Conservatives define success by how few people need help from the government, not by how many people we can enroll in government programs. When they see 60% more people on food stamps after the recession than we had before it started, conservatives say, that's not success, that's failure. You see, conservatives believe that simply giving people money doesn't help them escape poverty. On the contrary, it can keep them locked into it. Getting things without working for them is a very hard habit to break, so much so that it can become a way of life. According to my research, earning your way out of poverty is much more empowering and enduring than being supported by a variety of government programs which do little more than maintain people in their poverty. This doesn't mean the government doesn't have a role to play. Indeed, wherever possible, the government and private charities should require people to work in exchange for social assistance. When we do this, we help people in two ways. First, through welfare, we're helping them meet their immediate material needs. And second, through work, we're helping them earn their own success, the key to a fulfilling and dignified life. Whether we're progressive or conservative, shouldn't that be what we want for our fellow citizens? I'm Arthur Brooks, president of the American Enterprise Institute for Prager University.
To subscribe to our YouTube channel, click here. To help keep our videos free, donate here.
So welcome back from that great teaching, beautiful, really a beautiful teaching, by, let me get his name again, Arthur Brooks, yeah. Arthur Brooks is the president of American Enterprise Institute, American Enterprise Institute, Arthur Brooks. Let me write his name down. Arthur Brooks, president of the American Enterprise Institute. Yeah, so here are his key points. If you took notes down, you probably agree with me. He said, first of all, that there is a consensus by everyone that when people are desperately in need, they should be helped by the government. The government should be there to help them. Basic needs like food to eat, a place to stay, shelter to stay, and health. Yes, there's some basic help that the government should give: security, food, good health. Should be provided. And shelter should be provided for people who are really in need. People who cannot help themselves. People who are sick, disabled, or really poor. People who cannot afford it. That's true. Everybody agrees with that. I don't think anybody agrees. You will not find anybody who disagrees with that. But the key point, the question and the worry is, how does that help come and for how long? Many people on the left believe that the government should help forever. They should continue to help and continue to help and continue to help. Even when the government does not have the means, the government should borrow money to help them. And the problem with forever help is that the person being helped will not see the need to actually get out of that situation. The person will get locked in as long as the help keeps coming. But when you know that there is a need, nothing drives a man to work hard than when he knows there is a need to meet, and he knows that nobody is there to help him meet the need. The person is going to work himself out. He's going to throw himself in. He's going to do his best. I see it in Africa, where we don't have government help in any way. Most countries in Africa, probably all countries in Africa, don't have any kind of help. If there is any help, it's always to political friends. But help for the needy, help for the poor, it's hardly there. It's hardly there. So it is absolutely important that we, look at that kind of help. Conservatives, on the other hand, believe that, hey, you help a person for a while, help a person until the person gets up on his feet and does something for himself, which means that the help is not going to come forever, and then the help is going to be for a limited time, and the person will be expected to work for the help to go on. You know, in other words, you're not going to stay in my house forever, and I feed you and I care for you no matter how much I have. It's not really the important thing. The important thing is that when I help you to a place where you get up on your feet and actually do something for yourself. That's exactly the point. And so in that point is where a lot of difference comes in. And then progressives go on to keep proposing more help and more help and more help, because the sweet thing about help is that you get the person's loyalty. That's the thing. When you are helped and you depend on somebody, it's absolutely impossible for you to make choices. You have to keep taking whatever is being given to you, even if you don't like it, because you don't have a choice. Because if you decide, I have a choice, the help is going to cease. You see the problem. And so, in other words, you give up your liberty to get help. So it's a bet. The government forever help is a bet. As long as you support me, as long as you give me your vote, as long as you do what I say, I will keep helping you. But the day you decide that you have a different option, I will take away my help. Now that's not help. That's not help. That's exchange. You are exchanging your liberty for something, for basic needs. And that's absolutely not good. That's slavery. You know, that's actually what slavery is. When you are helping somebody, there shouldn't be strings attached. I'm going to help you if you vote for me. No. That's not help. You are buying the person's vote. You're going to sleep in my house if you do this for me. No, that's not help. That is exchange. The person is exchanging whatever you are requiring of him or her for shelter. You know, and the person has no choice. Listen, anytime a person does not have choice, it's slavery. If a person does not have any choice of his own, but to do what the person who is given him has to, requires of him, it's slavery. It's not help. You know, and and they gave this really robust example with the U.S. example. And as I look at this, and I can relate it to Africa, because that's what has been going on. And that's the reason why Africa is never going to be able to rise as long as we keep going on with this kind of system, where the government is father and mother, and the government decides everything and everybody depends on the government. Then absolutely, you know, one of the phenomena that it disturbed me over the years in Africa when I was growing up was the fact that the government, everybody waits for the budget of the government. And if the government does not announce their budget, everything comes to a standstill. Nothing works. And there's nothing as bad as that. I would expect that the private sector will be flourishing. Should be independent of the government. The private sector should not depend on government. Business should not depend on government. Business is the private sector. Business should actually be thriving. The private sector should be thriving more than the government. Why? Because that's where the government gets money from. If the government thrives more than the private sector, something is absolutely wrong. Something is totally wrong with that. And so people keep waiting. And if politicians delay the budget, sometimes 4 months into the year, the budget has not been announced. In fact, sometimes 5 months into the year, the budget of the government has not been released. So those first 5 months of the year are basically crawling. There are moments of crawling, you know, snail movement. And everybody is, people's salaries, government salaries are not paid. And again, it brings us to another thing, which is government becomes the main employer of labor. That's a dependent society. When government becomes the main employer of labor, it is a dependent society. And so he gave this great example with the United States. the U.S. Has been prospering steadily since the creation of the United States. But in 1966, when Lyndon Johnson became the president, he decided that he was going to reach out to minorities, and the essence of it was to fight poverty. You know, there's so much talked about, and you know, the left progressives keep talking. They always talk about these problems in a very passionate manner. We're going to end poverty. We're going to end death, child mortality. We're going to end poor education. We're going to end it, and you know, they always run on these problems and brag about them, and then poverty never ends. Look at this classical example, you know, that Dr. Brooks gave. In 1966, President Lyndon Johnson introduced the war on poverty. And at that time, the poverty rate was 14.7%. But today, as it stands, the poverty rate is 13.5%. That, someone will say that's a change, but that's just 1% change. 1966 to 2022, that's 60-something years, right? That's over 60, probably 66 years. 66 years. And the only difference that the government has been able to make is 1%, changing poverty from 14.7% to 13.5%. That's basically 1%. So somebody will say, well, at least there is a change. And you think that 66 years of hard labor, changing only 1% is success? That's ridiculous. And then also, now let's look at the cost. How much money was put into that program? The war on poverty, $20 trillion. $20 trillion was put into fighting the war on poverty, and that $20 trillion just successfully changed only 1% of the percentage on poverty. That cannot be, that's ridiculous. That's that's epic failure. That's waste of money. $20 trillion? If that money was actually cash distributed to those poor people so they can start some sort of businesses, I tell you the poverty would have dropped far better, probably by over 10%. So we could say that the war on poverty failed massively because it didn't achieve anything. You know, the percentage still remains the same. And in fact, if you actually check the figures are much higher. Well, we are just talking about percentage. The population of the U.S. in 1966 compared to the population of the U.S. in 2021 is not the same. It has grown. And if you measure the number of people actually in those 13.4%, they far exceed the 14.7% of 1966, probably by over 50 million or even more. So, the war on poverty was a waste of resources. I tell you, it's the waste of resources. And shocking that that's exactly the debt, or even just a little less than the exact debt of the U.S. government. What the government is owing is 20 trillion or 21 trillion now. Can you imagine that? So, here we are. That money was like water put in a basket. And you know what happens to it? It goes down, and the basket holds nothing. And then also he talks about, well, the progressive, their idea of waging war on poverty is the government snatching money, forcing money out of those who have it and transferring it to those who don't have. Okay? So if you give someone money to go and eat today, give him money to go and eat tomorrow, give him money to go and eat next tomorrow, you don't change him. He keeps waiting on you to provide. But however, if you give that person some lump sum money to start a trade or a business or to start something for himself, that money, when invested well, you know what will happen? The person will stop collecting the money you have been giving him. He will rather be earning money, and not just earning money, he could. Luckily, He could employ other people and provide for them and end their own need. So giving money, taking money from somebody and giving it to somebody, it's really not a good idea. It doesn't change anything. In fact, we as Christians, we know that that is wrong. You know, in the parable of Jesus, rather spoke about it that way. He said the person who works harder should take it away from the person who is lazy and give it to the person who works harder. And that's what Jesus is saying, teaching on the parable of the talents. So it's absolutely important for us to understand that. The government keeps taking money, $20 trillion from people, and said they were transferring it to the poor, and the poor still remain poor, and the number of the poor increases by large percentage. That's not help. That's not help. And when you give money to someone, every time you give him money, he will keep looking for it, keep waiting for it, keep taking the money. And that's no way to help the person. It's a habit that can hardly be broken, difficult to break. But when you help somebody earn money, the person earns his dignity, earns his pride and his joy. The person can beat his chest and is so excited and builds great confidence because he is earning it himself. He's working hard and earning something for himself. And that should be our joy. That's what we should be doing, helping people to start something. Charity should basically be a private thing because the government is the worst charitable organization. When the government gives, they always give to people they can earn their loyalty. They don't give to people because they care about poverty. They give to people who will support them. That's what governments do everywhere in the world, you know, and that is not help. So I'll be right back after this break. Right back.
Everything that's reported on television isn't always true, but it should be. NTD, the power of truth. Now available 24/7 on television and streaming platforms.
Thank you. Hey, I'm Ken McClinton, the host of the Exceptional Conservative Show, live for the nation's capital. I love this cat, the Exceptional Conservative Show cat, Jacob. We love you, and we want you to know we love the fact that you watch TECNTV.com. As chairman, founder, and president, we wish you much love and much affection. I love you. I love you.
Hey, this is Pastor Greg right here watching TECNTV.com live and enjoying. You should join me here on ChildrenGenerationRadio.com, and also my other favorite thing, ministering the gospel in India.
Hi, I'm Bob Record, and as you can see, I love hunting. And I also love watching TECNTV.com. Why don't you join me in doing that? But in the meantime, I'm headed back to the field. See you later.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Jones from Beyond the Lines. And when I'm not exploring Los Angeles, I am watching TECNTV.com. TECNTV.com. I love it.
I'm David McQuell. I'm the host of Global Impact on TECN. I'm a missionary in Abidjan, West Africa, working on establishing the largest history center. Whether I'm in the field or I'm working on history, I love TECN TV.
When I'm not making delicious cookies, I'm watching TECNTV.com.
Hi, I'm Randy. I love the golf.
And I love TECNTV.com.
All right, so welcome back. Hope that you were blessed by that video. We're going to look at another video which is a bit longer by Simon Sinek. I love this. I say Simon Sinek's advice will leave you speechless. And it's incredible. I love it, you know. We're talking about being productive and changing society, coming to a place where we can have impact on society positively to end poverty, to end suffering, and to make life easier for people. We as Christians should be doing that, and that's what we are looking at this week, towards a prosperous society. So this video is a bit longer. I think it's about 13-14 minutes, so I'll be right back. Just watch it.
Working hard for something we don't care about is called stress. Working hard for something we love is called passion. I think one of the mistakes that people make is they think purpose comes from their job. I've been a whatever for so many years, and when then I lose my job or I retire, I now don't have a sense of purpose because I so closely associated my self-worth with the job that I did. I knew what my job was. I had a sense of purpose. And one wonders if those things are conflated, right? Which is I had a sense of purpose for my job, but then when I didn't have the job, all of a sudden I woke up in the morning, didn't know what to do. The purpose is not your MOS. Your purpose is not you're a saw gunner. Your purpose is not the job that you wake up to do every day. Your purpose is something bigger.
I have 5 little rules that you can follow as you find your spark and bring your spark to life. The first is to go after the things that you want. Let me tell you a story. So a friend of mine and I, we went for a run in Central Park. The Roadrunners organization, on the weekends, they host races. And it's very common at the end of the race, they'll have a sponsor who will give away something. Apples or bagels or something. And on this particular day, when we got to the end of the run, there were some free bagels. And they had picnic tables set up, and on one side was a group of volunteers. On the table were boxes of bagels, and on the other side was a long line of runners waiting to get their free bagel. So I said to my friend, let's get a bagel. And he looked at me and said, the line's too long. And I said, free bagel. And he said, I don't want to wait in line. And I was like, free bagel. And he says, nah, it's too long. And that's when I realized that there's 2 ways to see the world. Some people see the thing that they want, and some people see the thing that prevents them from getting the thing that they want. I could only see the bagels. He could only see the line. Because the rule is, you can go after whatever you want. You just cannot deny anyone else to go after whatever they want. You don't have to do it the way everybody else has done it. You can do it your way. You can break the rules. You just can't get in the way of somebody else getting what they want. Rule number 2. In the 18th century, there was something that spread across Europe and eventually made its way to America called puerperal fever, also known as the Black Death of childbed. Basically what was happening is women were giving birth and they would die within 48 hours after giving birth. This Black Death of childbirth was the ravage of Europe, and it got worse and worse and worse over the course of over a century. And these doctors and men of science wanted to study and try and find the reason for this Black Death of childbed, and so they got to work studying, and they would study the corpses of the women who had died. And in the morning they would conduct autopsies, and then in the afternoon they would go and deliver babies and finish their rounds. And it wasn't until somewhere in the mid-1800s that Oliver Wendell Holmes realized that all of these doctors who were conducting autopsies in the morning weren't washing their hands before they delivered babies in the afternoon. And he pointed it out and said, guys, you're the problem. And they ignored him and called him crazy for 30 years. Until finally somebody realized that if they simply washed their hands, it would go away. And that's exactly what happened. When they started sterilizing their instruments and washing their hands, the Black Death of childbed disappeared. The lesson here is, sometimes you're the problem. Take accountability for your actions. You can take all the credit in the world for the things that you do right, as long as you also take responsibility for the things you do wrong. It must be a balanced equation. You don't get it one way and not the other. You get to take credit when you also take accountability. Lesson 3, take care of each other. The United States Navy SEALs are perhaps the most elite warriors in the world. And one of the SEALs was asked, who makes it through the selection process? Who is able to become a SEAL? And his answer was, I can't tell you the kind of person that becomes a SEAL. I can't tell you the kind of person that makes it through BUD/S, but I can tell you the kind of people who don't become SEALs. He says the guys that show up with huge bulging muscles covered in tattoos who want to prove to the world how tough they are, none of them make it through. He said the preening leaders who like to delegate all their responsibility and never do anything themselves, none of them make it through. He says some of the guys that make it through are skinny and scrawny. He said some of the guys that make it through, you will see them shivering out of fear. He says, however, all the guys that make it through, when they find themselves physically spent, emotionally spent, when they have nothing left to give physically or emotionally, somehow, some way, they are able to find the energy to dig down deep inside themselves, to find the energy to help the guy next to them. They become SEALs, he said. You want to be an elite warrior, it's not about how tough you are, it's not about how smart you are, it's not about how fast you are. If you want to be an elite warrior, you better get really, really good at helping the person to the left of you and helping the person to the right of you. Because that's how people advance in the world. The world is too dangerous and the world is too difficult for you to think that you can do these things alone. If you find your spark, I commend you. Now, who are you going to ask for help, and when are you going to accept help when it's offered? Learn that skill. Learn by practicing helping each other. It'll be the single most valuable thing you ever learn in your entire life, to accept help when it's offered and to ask for it when you know that you can't do it. The amazing thing is, when you learn to ask for help, you'll discover that there are people all around you who've always wanted to help you. They just didn't think you needed it because you kept pretending that you had everything under control. And the minute you say, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm stuck, I'm scared, I don't think I can do this, you will find that lots of people who love you will rush in and take care of you. But that'll only happen if you learn to take care of them first. Lesson 4. Nelson Mandela is a particularly special case study in the leadership world because he is universally regarded as a great leader. You can take other personalities, and depending on the nation you go to, we have different opinions about other personalities. But Nelson Mandela, across the world, is universally regarded as a great leader. And he was asked one day, how did you learn to be a great leader? And he responded that he would go with his father to tribal meetings. And he remembers two things when his father would meet with other elders. One, they would always sit in a circle. And two, his father was always the last to speak. You will be told your whole life that you need to learn to listen. I would say that you need to learn to be the last to speak. I see it in boardrooms every day of the week. Even people who consider themselves good leaders, who may actually be decent leaders, will walk into a room and say, here's the problem, here's what I think, but I'm interested in your opinion, let's go around the room. It's too late. The skill to hold your opinions to yourself until everyone has spoken does two things. One, it gives everybody else the feeling that they have been heard. It gives everyone else the ability to feel that they have contributed. And two, you get the benefit of hearing what everybody else has to think before you render your opinion. to keep your opinions to yourself. If you agree with somebody, don't nod yes. If you disagree with somebody, don't nod no. Simply sit there, take it all in, and the only thing you're allowed to do is ask questions so that you can understand what they mean and why they have the opinion that they have. You must understand from where they are speaking, why they have the opinion they have, not just what they are saying. Practice being the last to speak.
One afternoon, I went to buy a cup of coffee, and there was a barista by the name of Noah who was serving me. Noah was fantastic. He was friendly and fun, and he was engaging with me, and I had so much fun buying a cup of coffee, I actually think I gave 100% tip, right? He was wonderful. So as is my nature, I asked Noah, do you like your job? And without skipping a beat, Noah says, I love my job. And so I followed up. I said, what is it that the Four Seasons is doing that would make you say to me, I love my job? And without skipping a beat, Noah said, throughout the day, managers will walk past me and ask me how I'm doing, if there's anything that I need to do my job better. He said, not just my manager, any manager. And then he said something magical. He says, I also work at Caesar's Palace. And at Caesar's Palace, the managers are trying to make sure we're doing everything right. They catch us when we do things wrong. He says, when I go to work there, I like to keep my head under the radar and just get through the day so I can get my paycheck. He says, here at the Four Seasons, I feel I can be myself. So we in leadership are always criticizing the people. We're always saying, we got to get the right people on the bus. I've got to fill my team. I got to get the right people. But the reality is, it's not the people. It's the leadership. If we create the right environment, we will get people like Noah at the Four Seasons. If we create the wrong environment, we will get people like Noah at Caesar's Palace.
There was a former Undersecretary of Defense who was invited to give a speech at a large conference, about 1,000 people. And he was standing on the stage with his cup of coffee and his styrofoam cup. And he took a sip of his coffee and he smiled and he looked down at the coffee. And then he went off script. And he said, you know, last year I spoke at this exact same conference. Last year, I was still the undersecretary. And when I spoke here last year, they flew me here business class. And when I arrived at the airport, there was somebody waiting for me to take me to my hotel. And they took me to my hotel and they had already checked me in and they just took me up to my room. And the next morning I came downstairs and there was someone waiting in the lobby to greet me, and they drove me to this here same venue and handed me a cup of coffee in a beautiful ceramic cup. He says, I'm no longer the undersecretary. I flew here coach. I took a taxi to my hotel and I checked myself in. When I came down the lobby this morning, I took another taxi to this venue. And when I asked someone, do you have any coffee? He pointed to the coffee machine in the corner and I poured myself a cup of coffee into this here styrofoam cup. He says the lesson is, the ceramic cup was never meant for me. It was meant for the position I held. I deserve a styrofoam cup. Remember this. As you gain fame, as you gain fortune, as you gain position and seniority, people will treat you better. They will hold doors open for you. They will get you a cup of tea and coffee without you even asking. None of that stuff is meant for you. That stuff is meant for the position you hold. It is meant for the level that you have achieved of leader or success or whatever you want to call it. But you will always deserve a styrofoam cup. Remember that lesson of humility and gratitude. You can accept all the free stuff. You can accept all the perks. Absolutely, you can enjoy them. But just be grateful for them and know that they're not for you.
And so I keep meeting these wonderful, fantastic, idealistic, hardworking, smart kids. They've just graduated school. They're in their entry-level job. I sit down with them and I go, how's it going? They go, I think I'm going to quit. I'm like, why? They're like, I'm not making an impact. I'm like, you've been here 8 months. You know? It's as if they're standing at the foot of a mountain and they have this abstract concept called impact that they want to have in the world, which is the summit. What they don't see is the mountain. I don't care if you go up the mountain quickly or slowly, but there's still a mountain. And so what this young generation needs to learn is patience. That some things that really, really matter, like love, or job fulfillment, joy, love of life, self-confidence, a skill set, any of these things. All of these things take time. Sometimes you can expedite pieces of it, but the overall journey is arduous and long and difficult. All you need to do is have the will and the desire to want to understand what drives and inspires you.
Dreams are potential seeds. They need someone to believe in them. They need someone to finance them. And they need someone to embrace them. Partner today with the World Mission Center, Abidjan, the Ivory Coast, and help us win Africa for Christ.
Everything that's reported on television isn't always true, but it should be. NTD, the power of truth. Now available 24/7 on television and streaming platforms.
What happened to the church? To the living, powerful, transformative, nation-shaking Christianity?
What they're trying to do is completely demolish Western civilization and then to rebuild it in a just society.
How do you break down American Christianity?
I think the problem today in our culture is many of our words have been co-opted and stolen and dumbed down and reversed.
Social justice is sold as something that it isn't. Critical race theory is sold as something that it isn't.
Whiteness has caused blindness of heart. Whiteness has caused blindness of heart.
When you preach victimization, it always leads to vengeance and vice. Us against them, me against you, I want my pound of flesh.
American churches today are where the universities were 10 years ago. Pretty heavily Marxist. They're not quite there yet, but they're well on the way. Many of the seminaries and Bible colleges are definitely already there.
That message that they're going out and taking the world is not, you need to repent of your sin, receive Christ. Instead, the message that you actually have is they are under the weight of racism or sexism or homophobia, and then we need to unify them together.
I'm gay, I'm 29, I'm a youth pastor in New Jersey.
I'm straight, and I'm also a youth pastor in New Jersey.
We're planning on sharing life together for the rest of our lives, which we're not totally sure what that looks like. Obviously, Nick is straight, and he does plan on getting married. When he has a wife one day, she'll make those decisions with us.
The future damage of what we're doing now is just going to be enormous.
The entire fabric of family, personal wealth, private property, all those things are out the door. And everything is the state. They believe the state is God.
They don't define justice the same way as the scriptures.
Oh no, it's going to be an equality, all right. And it's going to be a totalitarian Marxist justice.
So welcome back to the show. Thank you so very much for being patient, and I hope that Simon Sinek really inspired you tonight. I have just been sitting in the studio and thinking about the things he's been talking about, and honestly, I'm sure you took your notes. If you did, and if you didn't, you could probably have to look out for this video again. I think it's an a PragerU video. So and you can get that and watch it over and over again. But I just took down the significant points which we have very short time to go through them, just about 4 minutes or so. First of all, he talked about the difference between stress and passion. And he said any work you do, anything you pursue, any dream, any job you do that you don't love, you are, what you are doing is you are going through stress. You're stressing yourself. And anything that you do that you really love and you want to do it, it's called passion. And I think that's really, really significant. It's something that we need to look at. Are you stressing yourself or are you enjoying what you're doing, which is passion? We should enjoy what we do, which is passion, you know, because it saves you a lot of time. I understand that some people begin doing something they really love, and then because they are in the wrong place or surrounded by the wrong people, they lose interest in what they are doing, and it becomes really a stress. It becomes a stress. It becomes a burden to go to work. It becomes a burden to do their job. It becomes, they lose the joy of doing what they are doing. But it's absolutely important for us to enjoy what we are doing and to do it with great passion, you know, and that is absolutely important. But then he brought out gave us some advice. I think it was about 7 or 8 pieces of advice. First of all, he said, go after the things you want. You need to go after the things you really want. If you work in a place where you have to work because you have to pay the bills, that's okay. But alongside what you are doing there, find time to pursue your passion. What is the thing, the very thing that you really love to do? Probably children, taking care of children, or education, or fashioning, designing. I remember years back, I went to a bank with a friend in Lagos. I was in Lagos then, and I went to the bank with a friend, and I actually went to do some transaction, and she went to do some transactions, so we went together. And I finished mine quickly because she had more to do. She was handling 2 different accounts. So by the time she finished, I was waiting for her, and she got to talk with one of the ladies who was working there. I think she was manager in some sort, yeah. And she came out, when we were going, she said to me, you wouldn't believe it. And this lady that I saw working in the bank is a trained lawyer. I said, okay, so she's the legal advisor of the bank. She said, no. She's not a legal advisor. She did law, but that wasn't what she wanted to do. But her parents, you know, I think her dad was a judge or a lawyer, and they insisted that she was smart and she would take after the dad. So they, you know, pressured her into studying law, which she did in all obedience. But that wasn't her passion. So she was not working. When she graduated, and she didn't just have the steam to practice law. And she got a job with the bank, which was really good. They were paying her. But her real passion was designing. And every time she sees a woman, she can just design something new that the lady can wear. And she began to scratch, you know, get her a piece of paper and pen, and she would sketch some fantastic, incredible designs. You know, so a design house, a fashion house in Lagos got to know about her, and they employed her. So she was designing for them. She goes to the bank doing her jobs, and then she takes, once an inspiration comes, as customers pass by, she look at them, and then just the inspiration, it was so natural for her. And she designed something. And then she kept designing, and she had a number of designs to deliver a week. And right from the fashion company, they come over and take the design. She designs them on paper, and they come and pick it. And they were paying her, excuse me, and she was earning more from her designs than even what they were paying her in the bank. That's absolutely incredible. You know, so go after what you love. He said, find the problem. Sometimes you are the problem. Give us a very fantastic example. Years ago, when, you know, about women giving birth and dying, and the problem was simply that doctors were not washing their hands. And they, you know, but it took a long time, 30 years, to find out, and they rejected someone who had the solution. You know, so sometimes you may be your problem. Find your problem. Talks about take care of each other. Take care of people around you. Be someone who takes care of people. Yesterday I talked about it. Joseph took care of people. He would interpret their dreams. And in interpreting the dreams, he actually took care of himself. And then he said, ask for help and offer help. So always ask for help. Don't be too proud to ask for help and offer help when someone needs it. You know. And then he also talks about learn to be the last to speak. Practice speaking last, giving people the opportunity to speak, respect what they say, you know. And then he talked about understanding their story, where they are coming from. Not just what they say, what's their story, where are they coming from. He talks about creating the right atmosphere. If you're a leader, it's not just the people who work for you, it's the atmosphere you create. Then he talks about humility and gratitude. Always maintain a humble spirit and be grateful for the position you are in, because the things you enjoy in that position is for the position, is not for you. And then lastly, he talks about patience. Everything takes time. You don't be in a hurry. Don't rush to achieve what you want to do. Take your time, and if you take your time, you're going to eventually get to where you're going. Thank you so very much for being with us today. We've come to the end of the show. We appreciate you. We'd like you to leave a note, something for us on our email. The email address is there. We'd really love to hear from you. Please leave something for us, and we will really, really appreciate it. Tell us how you feel about us. God bless you. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.